let's share the screen on this one. Mike Pereira was on KMBR earlier today, and this is just maddening. I mean, this thing is just absolutely maddening.
Yeah.
The Niners should have had a 4th and 1 opportunity, and instead it was 4th and 6, and they punted. Shanahan was asked if it was 4th and 1. He's like, we probably would have gone for it, but they didn't go for it. They punted. And now we're finding out that it should have been 4th and 1 instead of 4th and 6 because the officials blew the call. Mike Pereira was on KMBR with Greg Papa and Greg Silver earlier today, and we'll let you listen to it. Now, this is a long cut. This is like 7 minutes. So we're not going to play the whole 7 minutes, but here's a minute or two of this little conversation, and then we'll comment.
There was a curious play where the Niners were getting ready to punt with 2:45 to play in the game. They were facing a 4th and 6. And the line judge over on the Seattle sideline, ward number 16 yesterday, Kevin Cody, for some reason, he came running from the Seattle sideline and he stopped the game. And our initial thing was, well, they just called a timeout right before they wanted to see how the Niners were going to line in the punt formation. But, of course, they called a timeout before on the throw to Jawan Jennings. And you can't call back-to-back timeouts in the NFL. Years ago, Joe Gibbs, out of retirement of the Hall of Fame, did it at Washington against Buffalo, and it was an egregious error. Do you have any idea why would Kevin Cody, the line judge, come running in and stop punt formation if, in fact, somebody from Seattle sideline did not call a timeout? Did you get any clarification on that, Michael?
Yeah, I did. And, when it happened, I was kind of in the same mode. What did he do? I mean, we didn't have a shot, what's called the all-22, where you see all 22 players in one shot. There's also an all-29, which means that you see all 22 players and the 7 officials. We didn't have that shot. So we were kind of in the dark on what had actually happened. However, when you look at the all-22 and the 29, it is clear that Seattle asked for a second timeout. And what you are to do when a team asks for a timeout, when they're not entitled to it. So either they're out of timeouts or they've already called one in that same dead ball period, what you do is ignore it. Now, it didn't get ignored. It got granted. All right, so what does the rule? Is it simply a do-over at that point because the officials erroneously granted that? No, it is a 5-yard penalty, even though the official shouldn't have stopped it. When he does, then it's a 5-yard penalty, and that's a rule. To me, it's kind of one of those unforgivables, and they recognized it, which then we saw them try to get the teams back on the field rather quickly, but in reality, instead of having that 4th and 6 punt, worst case scenario, I guess, is you have a 4th and 1 punt because it's a 5-yard penalty.
You may go for it on 4th and 1 and not punt on the ball.
Which then leads to probably what I would call a probability of going for it from 4th and 1. So that it's like judgment. Judgment is judgment. Judgment is hard. Rule is not. I mean, if you're going to officiate in the National Football League, then it is incumbent on the 7 players and replay that can get involved in penalty enforcements to at least say, hey, that make sure that they knew it was the second timeout and that is a foul. Somebody has to catch that.
Well, now you got me go. Do we know who on the Seattle sideline asked for the timeout? Did it come from Mike McDonald, the head coach?
It makes no difference. It makes no difference.
But do we know who asked for it?
Well, no, I don't know. I didn't see. I just confirmed that it was a coach that asked for it. That's all that I confirmed when they were looking at it back in New York. But they couldn't tell from the all 29 which it was. But once it's granted, it's a foul period. So it's that's you get with all the missed face masks that we have seemed to have had, you can sometimes see how that happens. When I ran the program, I never expected perfection when it came to judgment. I expected perfection when it came to rules. And the minute that happened, that they erroneously granted, and the rule, it's kind of specific, as a matter of fact, because it covers the exact wording. If a timeout is inadvertently granted, then it is a 5-yard penalty. Inadvertently granted 2 timeouts in the same dead ball period, which is what we had here, or as I said before, if they were out of timeout. So not one that the league can be very happy about. And me as a 49er
well,
fan,
wait a minute. I mean, so Kevin Cody, the line judge, comes running in and he stops it. And then he goes and talks to Brad Rogers, the whitehead, and they go over and talk to Mike McDonald. I mean, was it a cover-up in that situation? I mean, well, why did he grant him the timeout? And where is the recourse to rescind the timeout?
Well, look, it can the ball's about ready to be snapped. Okay.
All right. Well, we've got the general gist of it here.
Yeah.
This is unfreaking believable. I mean, if you really think about this, this is unfreaking believable. Let's talk about this for a second. This was 3rd and 11 on the 47-yard line. Purdy goes to Jennings for 5 yards. They call a timeout. It's 4th and 6. The Niners come out to punt. They call another timeout. And that should have been 4th and 1 from the 36-yard line. Instead, it was 4th and 6 from the Seahawks 41-yard line. And because it was 4th and 6, the Niners punted. If it's 4th and 1, they probably can go quarterback sneak. If they go quarterback sneak, they have a first down with 2 minutes and 45 seconds left in the game, and they win the game. They win the game. Or if they give it back to Seattle, they probably don't give it back to them until inside the 2-minute warning.
Yeah.
And Geno's 13-yard run at the end came with 12 seconds left on the clock. So, I mean, obviously they would have hurried it up. So you can't say, well, they for sure would have beaten Seattle. But I mean, that's a major fucking fuck up. That is a major fuck up. I mean, seriously, the 49ers may miss the playoffs. Guys may lose their jobs. This was one of the biggest calls of the day. And they're consulting with McDonald on the other sideline. I'd love to have heard that conversation. What did they say to him? I mean, what exactly did they say to him? Hey, by the way, you just called 2 timeouts. You know, we probably should call a penalty on you, but we're not going to. I mean, what are we talking about? And mob schools like excuses. This is a major, major call in the game. If it's 4th and 1 from the 36, you quarterback sneak it, you win the game.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, yes, you could sit here and say it's excuses. There's other reasons why you lost, blah, blah, blah. This could have changed the whole complexion of the game because had the 49ers went for it on 4th and 1, which, I mean, then you have to ask yourself, do you think they'd go for it? Kyle said they would. I believe they would. 4th and 1, it's a big spot. You go for it. If you get a first down, you probably have a higher opportunity to win that game. Better. I mean, they went from like a 90% chance to win, and then they had to punt it, and we saw Geno, and then boom, they lost the game. So,
and look at the game, Raj.
Get that opportunity because you saw the defense was letting Geno run up and down him once Bosa was out. If you can keep that ball away from him, you probably have a chance to win that game. And that was so frustrating that when I saw that today, I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me? How the hell did it just shows you how inept, how bad the refs are in the NFL. It's not just for the 49ers. It's across the league. These refs have been so piss poor. And it sucks because they decide a lot of these games. It's not just been the Niner games. I've seen so many games that have been decided by just horrible calls by the refs. Like, this is their job. Get it right. It's like people slam Moody, right? Do your job. Kick the field goal. The refs, you have one job to make sure the rules are, followed every week. And they just seem to fail on a weekly basis. It's sickening, man. That the
now,
I'm not going to blame the loss on this call, but it definitely was a factor.
Well, okay, I understand. Okay, we all understand there's a lot of factors that go into the game, and it's weak to blame officials' calls, period. But this isn't just a judgment call that just didn't go the Niners' way. This was a call that's on the books. This is a rule that was ignored in the biggest moment of the game. That the loss, if the Niners had won that game, they have a 66% chance of making the playoffs. They now have a 32% chance of making the playoffs. That was a big fucking call.
A big change,
huge call.
It's a big change.
I mean, the NFL has no problem when, reviewing the film and saying, Fred Warner, we're going to take $11,000 out of your pocket. Nick Bosa, we're going to take 11 grand out of your pocket because of what you did. How much money are you going to take out of the NFL's pocket for that one? I mean, what if the 49ers don't make the playoffs? I mean, that call very well could have cost the 49ers the playoffs. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
At the end of the day, again, the refs have screwed up so many calls this year in the NFL league wide, and it sucks, man. They need to be held accountable. I think you're right that the refs at some point need to be held accountable for their screw up, because that sucks. Okay, the game's over, and then the next day, oh, by the way, that's what sucks about this, because you hear like stuff 2 days later. Oh, the refs missed the call. It would have been this. Well, why are we hearing about it after the fact when it should have been decided at that moment? Like, that's why you pause the games. That's why you have these timeouts. That's why you review it to get it right. And you still don't get the call right. It's like as a fan, you're like, okay, what does that do for me when you admit it that you were wrong after the game? It's already over. The decision's over. You lost the game. What's that do to me as a fan? Like, what am I supposed to do with that information other than be pissed off,
Yeah. KC's like, explain the other 4 losses to non-winning teams. I'm not KC. How stupid are you? I'm not saying that the 49ers should have a perfect record if it wasn't for the officials. I'm not even saying that the 49ers losses are in any way illegitimate. They're all legitimate. You're right. They're a flawed team this year. They've lost games that they shouldn't have lost. Separate that. That's totally a separate argument from this. This is a call that was screwed up in the game that literally cost them probably the game. And maybe it will cost them a playoff appearance. So it's actually kind of a huge freaking deal. And to me, it's unbelievable that you have and I guess my question would be this. How much do you blame the Niners?
Well,
how much do you blame the Niners? How much do you now? Obviously, they didn't screw up the call. The officials screwed up the call. But how much do you blame the Niners for not getting in the face of the officials and telling them, "Hey, you screwed up this call. This is the call." Did they know the rule, or did they get caught like they got caught in overtime?
I was just gonna say,
kind of knowing the rules, but not really questioning it, and not really challenging the officials. And I don't know. Shanahan looked like he was. You could see in that video, Shanahan saying something about the timeouts. He was taking issue with the timeouts. I don't know what he said about it, but he definitely took issue with it.
Yeah, maybe he wasn't vocal enough. And at the end of the day, I blame the Niners for putting themselves in that position to be, given a chance to lose that game in the first place. They shouldn't have been in that position. If you score, if you finish your drives,
they could. At the end of the day,
the Niners would lose. Like, I get it. That play definitely was a huge play, Larry. That could have changed the tide of the game. But the whole bottom line of this season is they're 5-5 because they're letting teams hang around. They're finding ways to let teams beat them. Like, that's it. They're shooting themselves in the foot. But those types of things are minor things that can change the complexity of the game. And 100%. Maybe they should have been more vocal. Maybe Kyle should have screamed at the ref. Throw a challenge flag, whatever you got to do. Do something to get some attention, because that was a huge play. And like Kyle said, he goes, oh, yeah, I would have ran a play and went for it. So say something. You need to have that opportunity. So I don't know how vocal he was. I mean, you never know what's going on the sidelines. You don't know what they're saying. Like you said, you would have liked to hear what McDonald was talking about. I would love to be a fly on the wall for that,
But this is the area that when people say, oh, Kyle needs help, this is an area where if you have somebody in your ear who knows the rules and is telling you, hey, they just called 2 timeouts. This is a did they have somebody who knew the rule yelling and screaming about it and were ignored, or did they not know the rule? Did they not bring it up to the official? I don't know, but it's just unbelievable that a call of that magnitude in a sport where there's this much money on the line would go uncalled. And, somebody could call 2 timeouts and not have a 5-yard penalty, and a 5-yard penalty in that situation changes the game. I mean, changes the game. So it's just, it sucks. I'm not saying that oh my God, the Niners are getting screwed by the officials and nobody else is. I'm kind of blaming the Niners a little bit. Look, go back to the Philadelphia playoff game, the NFC Championship game. That was, you had Afonga saying incomplete. You had Jalen Hurts sprinting down to the other side of the field to get a play called on time. You had two different indicators that you needed to challenge it, and you didn't. So maybe Kyle's got too many things going on. Maybe he's wearing a few too many hats. Maybe they should have somebody who questioned that Eagles call. Maybe they should have questioned this call. I don't know. Maybe they did. But man, what a bitter loss this was. What a crushing loss this was. And potentially what a screwed up call this was. So